Now, when couples get married, it seems they promise to love, honour and argue over money. Check out this moment from the Tom Hanks, Shelley Long movie, The Money Pit.
I have worked and slaved and suffered for this house every bit as much as you have. Actually more. Because I had to put up with you.
This is ridiculous! You don't even like this house. You never liked it.
I love this house!
You've done nothing but complain about it since we got here.
I did one other thing, Walter. I sunk every nickel I had in the world in this house.
And you'll get it all back. I told you that.
Me and everyone you ever met. I'll pay you back will be written on your gravestone.
I wouldn't give lectures on the valuable promises. Your word didn't do too well in this last outing.
Yours is fine. It's certainly a lot better than your check.
Feel familiar? Well, a recent survey found that more than half of Australian couples argue over their finances, nearly a quarter every few weeks. So why does it happen and how can we avoid it? Well, let's ask Sydney clinical psychologist Amanda Gordon. Welcome back to the show, Amanda.
Hi.
Gee, money causes lots of friction, doesn't it? Why? Why money?
Well, it's the tangible, it's the thing, isn't it? It's the thing we measure. And for many people, it's the way they measure their worth. This is how much I earn, this is who I am. And also within relationships, it can often mean that I am worth more than you because I earn more than you. Or I have more in the bank than you do. So for some couples, it's a sign of inequality because one of them earns more than the other or has more to contribute than the other. But sometimes with couples, I find the arguments are around not having made that complete relationship. So they say, I'll hold my money in my bank account and you can hold yours in yours. And then I'm in control of this part of my life and you can't touch it.
I was going to say, because a lot of people talk about men and women having separate bank accounts in a relationship as being sort of empowering for the women because they do have their own thing. But that strikes me as quite strange because then
You've got one
it
foot out the
reinforces the traditional male view that I'm the one who earns all the money, therefore all this is my money and whatever stuff the woman does.
So should we have
is
separate
not counted.
accounts?
Should we?
You know, there are many views about that. I don't think there's great evidence about what works, but what doesn't work is if you do have one foot out of the door. So if you're keeping your separate bank account as a woman so that you are safe, and I remember my mother advising me that many, many years ago, have your own money, then you're safe. Then you can get out if you need to. But I think the world has moved on from that stage, and I don't think we need to keep that one foot out of the door by keeping money separate. And I think it can be quite dangerous in relationships when what's mine is mine and you can't have it.
If my wife had her own separate bank account, it would make it much harder for her to spend all my money.
Yeah, it's true.
There are things though, you know, do men understand what shoes cost?
Yes, and skin products.
And skin products.
Or I get my hair cut every 4 weeks too, and it costs me $25. What's your problem?
Yeah, and why does it go? Things like that. So sometimes one half of the relationship needs some more money, and can we get around that?
And I think that's the real danger. One of the other ways that people argue is not just having separate accounts, it's when they have the same account, but they allocate equal amounts of spending money. And for a woman, the spending money will last 2 days, and for the man it can last 2 weeks because he's not spending it on the beauty products or the shoes or the expensive haircut, and yet they are not...
Like, women's razors cost more than men's razors. Women's women's haircuts cost more than men's haircuts. I mean, we cost more.
So I think that having the joint accounts, I have friends who have always had separate accounts, and he earns a lot more money and paid for houses, and so she doesn't own them. It's quite...
Yeah, that's what
it's quite amazing.
Aren't they married though? Doesn't she get half of everything?
No, they're not. But anyway, they would. But to me, it's one of the great things about being with someone is you can share the money. It's
The goal of being with someone is to be richer as a result of being together, not poorer. And the richer is emotionally and it is financially. If the two of you together, by pooling your resources, can do more things and achieve more greatly, then surely that's a good thing about being together. Because you made such an interesting comment just then, Sarah. It was, aren't they married? Doesn't she get half anyway? That's the foot out of the door idea.
Yes.
If you're thinking about your money in terms of how you can protect it so that when you leave, you will be okay, then your relationship is sort of doomed.
Is it a foot out of the door, or is it... It's sort of like saying you're getting a prenup going into a wedding and going into a marriage, right? Is it having a foot out of the door, or is it being realistic that half of marriages and partnerships fail and that you have to set yourself up for what might happen?
Well, once you start thinking that it might happen, you're going to be in that 50%. What you have to do is work on making this such a good relationship that I'm not in that 50%, and we have to lower those numbers. And we do that not by being self-protective, but by being protective of the relationship. I tell you what you need to do. You actually need to do a budget together where you actually look at what you spend and then together work out what's discretionary and what's not.
How much of it is a relationship problem and how much of it is just an economic problem? I mean, we know that wages are stagnant, costs keep going up, cost of living especially, so the roof that you're living under is, you know, prohibitively expensive for many, if not most people.
Yeah. So for many people, money is the widget that they argue about, and it wouldn't matter what it was, they need to have an argument because they're stressed. When you're stressed, you're going to fight, and that was the money bit thing. They'll argue about anything. That scene actually gets even more extreme.
So should they just stop arguing with each other and start arguing with the government or the bank manager or whoever else to blame, or their employer?
Or they should say, wow, this is an indication that we're highly stressed about the way we're living. Let's look at what we're doing and how we can make life better with the resources that we have. And because we're two, not one, we can do that, and we can do it with fewer resources because it's more fun. We can make it fun despite being limited in the financial resources we have. It's about taking the money out of the equation, if you like, and looking at how we can have a good relationship, and the money then can be the bonus. It can be the thing that makes life a bit easier, but it can reduce the stress instead of increase it.
Well, let's recap some of your main points. Some really good advice here. Talk about money and spending, have common goals and work towards them. Accept that some people just need more money. If necessary, get external advice, start a budget together. Really good tips, Amanda Gordon. Thank you so much for talking us through it.
Thank you.